A man just wanted to finish drilling and head home. Then a terrifying scream came from underground. Immediately after, a pool of blood gushed up. Next second, the drill took off running on its own. Before he could even process what was happening, a tube suddenly coiled around his right ankle. Instantly, he was yanked away at high speed. His co-worker rushed over to help, but was struck and killed by a falling rock. Just then, a pickup truck happened to drive by. Seeing the road was blocked, David and Jack quickly got out to investigate. Jack spotted something in the rubble, a hard hat stained with blood. Alarmed, they knew something was wrong. They ran back to turn around, but the truck hit the embankment behind them. David floored it, trying to surge forward. He pushed the pedal so hard the tires started smoking, but the truck wouldn't budge an inch. As an experienced driver, David had never encountered anything so bizarre. Luckily, after gunning it for a while longer, they finally managed to break free. Once they got back to town, they hurriedly told everyone what they'd seen. But then, a little girl spotted something strange under the truck. A massive tentacle was tightly wrapped around the driveshaft. If you thought it was a snake, its skin was smooth and scaleless. If you thought it was an eel, this was dry land, far from water. Remembering the sheep that had mysteriously died a few days earlier, and their owner found dead on a tower, they decided to pull the creature out for a closer look. But then, something even stranger happened. The monster looked completely lifeless, but its jaws were clamped on the undercarriage. They finally managed to pry it out, and after examining it closely, they realized this thing didn't look like any creature from Earth. Sensing trouble, David tried to call for help, but his phone had no signal at all. Looked like they'd have to go find the police themselves. They were only halfway there. They found the road blocked by a boulder. With no other choice, they had to turn back. Little did they know, trouble would strike that very night. A couple was camping under the moonlight. Suddenly, their camping light went out without warning. The man grabbed a flashlight to check the wiring, but strangely, the entire lamp head was gone, leaving just a wire dangling. Then, with a muffled thud, the lamp was suddenly spat back out from the ground. Terrified, they didn't know what to do. Before they could even run, something grabbed the man by the ankle. The woman lunged, trying desperately to pull him free. Then came a sickening crack. His leg was swallowed whole. Another bite, and most of his body disappeared. Frantic, the woman grabbed a wooden plank and shoved it under him, trying to give him some support, but the creature was just too strong. Slowly, the man was pulled under the sand, vanishing from sight. But the monster wasn't full yet. It turned its attention to the woman. Terrified, she scrambled into the car, escaping for the moment. But thinking of her husband's horrific death, she was overcome with grief and terror, with no one around to comfort her. Just when she thought she was safe, the monster pulled the car underground. But this was far from over. No one knew what was really happening. With the road out of town blocked by the landslide, they had no choice but to wait until dawn to figure something out. Then, the bald man mentioned there were a few saddles in the shop. If someone could ride, they could go for help. This crucial mission quickly fell to David and Jack. With time running out, they reluctantly agreed. Early the next morning, as soon as the sun came up, they saddled the horses and grabbed their rifles. The two deputies were left to look after the townsfolk and search for their friend, Annie. The entire town's hope now rested on David and Jack. They didn't waste another moment. Under the hopeful gaze of the others, they mounted up and rode out. Their route took them right past Annie's place, but when they got there, Annie and her husband were gone. Strangely, their RV was still there. Walking on, David kicked something metal. Brushing away the dirt, they found a buried car. They realized then that Annie and her husband had fallen victim to the creature. Grasping the true horror they faced, they spurred their horses on, not daring to delay another second. But the next moment, their horses spooked violently, throwing them both to the ground. Before they could figure out what was going on, the ground beneath them began to crack open. They scrambled out of the way just in time. A massive creature burst out, its mouth lunging at them. David fired as he backed away. Hit, the creature retreated underground, planning to pursue them from below. They didn't even grab their hats. As the creature closed in, they jumped into a nearby deep ditch. Thinking this was the end, the creature, charging with such force, slammed headfirst into the rock wall and went still. But before they could catch their breath, Annie warned them there were three more. They didn't hesitate, jumping into a truck and speeding away. But no sooner had they returned to town than the creatures were right behind them. The store owner was killed instantly. Watching closely, they realized the creatures were blind. They hunted by sound. So everyone scrambled onto the roof, buying themselves a temporary reprieve. But David, knowing the danger, couldn't relax. They were completely surrounded. Unless they found a way out, even if the monsters didn't get them, they'd starve to death up there. But until a plan came together, David knew he couldn't show his fear. Panic would only make things worse. To keep the others from panicking, he had to swallow his own terror. Then, they spotted a bulldozer nearby, weighing dozens of tons. It should be safe from the creatures. They used a toy car to lure them away. David made a dash for the bulldozer. Halfway there, the RC car tipped over. The creature immediately turned toward David. Just as it was about to reach him, Annie signaled him to be still. David froze, holding his breath. The creature, losing its target, then was drawn by water sounds, when Annie kicked open a pipe. But their plan hit a snag. Their truck, trying to leave, had fallen into one of the creature's traps, stuck fast in a pit. In desperation, they used a homemade bomb, killing one. Going after a second, the creature spat the bomb back at them. The blast threw them through the air. With the creature in hot pursuit, they came up with a last-ditch plan. They ran to the cliff's edge. As the monster lunged, David sidestepped at the last second. The creature, unable to stop, fell into the abyss and died. In the end, thanks to David's courage, he and Annie lived happily ever after.